I've invited Brian from workload.co over to help us understand what is going on in the world of BPM services that agencies, consultants, experts can provide. What are the services that are most ordered on Workload, which will hopefully match pretty well, I think they will, with the other platforms, the other marketplaces out there. I'll let Brian introduce Workload in a minute, but what are the services that are being ordered most? At what ticket value? We're going to talk a little bit about margins, a little bit about white labeling, a little bit about working with these experts like you, Core, and bringing them into your agency to help your clients automate more, better their processes, set up these really cool triggered systems using these iPaaS solutions like Zapier, Integromat, and others. So let's dig into it. Brian, what's going on with Workload? Who are you? What is Workload?
Yeah, great. So Workload, thanks for the introduction, by the way, and happy to be here. So Workload is a marketplace that connects companies to automation experts. So you might ask, okay, what is an automation expert? It's someone who typically is very skilled at using a tool like Zapier or Integromat to automate a company's workflows, whether it be marketing automation sequences, automating invoices or account reconciliation in someone's QuickBooks, automating order fulfillment in Shopify. So these are people who can take a process and completely automate it from end to end with all the kind of decision trees that need to happen in between. And Workload is a marketplace that matches companies who desire to automate processes with the talent who can do it in a fashion very similar to Upwork. Why is automation important? It's important because businesses typically want to do more with less. Less people, less money, less resources. Businesses are profit driven and they rely on margins to make those profits. So the less kind of overhead that they have to run these companies, the more profitable they'll be. Automation helps kind of the top line and the bottom line because you can run more meat through the grinder, so to speak. In a survey that we ran with our customers, we saw that 78% of our CEOs, they prefer automation over hiring new team members. Hiring new people on your team can be very costly, time consuming. It can become a large distraction from your organization. And you have to train them. And when they quit, they take that knowledge that you've invested in them, they take it with them if you haven't done it right. So this could be dangerous, and you can fall into this repetitive cycle of hiring, training. The person leaves, back to hiring and training. With automation, you set up the process one time, and it runs forever. It doesn't have sick days. It doesn't quit your company. Well, there's some technical things that can go wrong where this, server goes down maybe, but those are rare occasions. So kind of moving on from that, what are the target companies that look to automate processes so that you can identify these? So I know a lot of people in your audience are mostly marketing automators. So that's great because your client is already familiar with the concept of automating a task. So imagine for a minute that the company, your client that you work with is having a Facebook ad. They're taking the lead form from that, filling out a spreadsheet, and then they're emailing these leads one by one with a personalized message each time. And then they're setting a calendar reminder to follow up. I mean, how many of those can you do in a day versus how many can a computer system like Outreach take care of that for you? If you connect Facebook to Outreach using a tool like Zapier or Integromat, you could scale that infinitely. So you could give off this aura of being a huge business with really just a few employees and maybe an automation consultant. So the target business, you're already operating in there, but a few other key distinct things that could distinguish a target business are usually they're startups or newer companies that are just getting off the ground. They're established companies also that maybe have less than 20 people. they can't hire the resources that they need to manually do it. So they start to figure out creative ways, and automation is one of those ways. Something that we've noticed within our marketplace, a lot of jobs that get posted and matched all relate back to Shopify somehow. So a lot of the Shopify store owners, people in the e-commerce retail sector, really get a huge benefit of automation. And that's mostly because they're a specialist in usually design, or they have a great product idea, but they don't know accounting. So they need someone to take their Shopify orders and move them into the right place in QuickBooks. Or they're not a logistics genius, so they need someone to help them fulfill the orders. So there's software that can do that, and Zapier is the glue that can kind of piece that together, as well as Integromat.
Yeah, and I'll stop you there for one quick
Sure.
sec. So yeah, I mean, if you aren't familiar with Integromat, I think most of us have run Zaps, but one thing that I've experienced firsthand to understand is that Zapier doesn't have all the push and pulls set up with all the top apps. We just ran into this with SendGrid. So if you're thinking about automations, if you are looking for opportunities in this ecosystem, I'd look at some of the really active applications like SendGrid, Twilio, same company now, that Zapier has chosen not to put a lot of emphasis on. Maybe the push trigger, where you can say, if SendGrid equals this, then do this. Or if this app sends me this data, push it to this SendGrid list, and set up the automations that way. The companies will run into these issues, and they'll be sent API documentation, which comes with a lot of huge headache. If you're the expert, like Core, you are with Integromat, you can shoe in, put something up on the marketplace, tag yourself as an Integromat expert, and you can offer those types of services. So a lot of opportunity just in the iPaaS expertise area, iPaaS being Zapier and Integromat, just being there. But we want to talk about some of the services that connect multiple systems. The big ones, the big CRMs are important. The big customer success softwares like Zendesk, we're going to talk about that. I'm a huge proponent of Airtable, so I want to hear anything you have on Airtable. But let's dive into the presentation. Let's figure out what can we as agencies do in this vertical, in this market, in this ecosystem to make more money, yeah, but also to better our client setups, you know?
Yeah, great. I'll share my screen here. I don't know if that will work. And Alex, you mentioned something that just hit the nail right on the head, was your example with SendGrid. That's where the opportunities are. We use SendGrid internally at Workload, and the integrations with iPaaS tools is very weak. And so you need to understand how to use APIs and how to call those within the Zapier and Integromat environment. So that's why sometimes hiring a automation expert, outsourcing it, subcontracting that work out, can be more efficient than learning it yourself. So with SendGrid, we have to use the custom APIs and use webhooks to call the service to run our triggers. But back to your point. So yeah, the target SaaS companies that we mostly see people inquiring about on how to automate: QuickBooks Online, Shopify, Slack, the big CRM. So within the CRMs, HubSpot is the biggest that we see most companies are using. Pipedrive is another very popular one. Simple CRM is another one, and Agile CRM is the other most common one. But the market share is really low for those other ones. It's probably 80%. It's just HubSpot. We don't get a lot of Salesforce inquiries, surprisingly, but I think those are more geared towards enterprise companies that have the resources to dedicate the in-house automation person. And as you mentioned, Airtable is quite big. A lot of small businesses and startups use Airtable, and it's a data entry model. So anytime you're filling in repetitive things, items into an Airtable cell, you can begin to think about, how can I just automate this? Why am I doing this over and over again? And then Zendesk and other ticketing systems is another great place to start thinking about automation. So it's a good indicator as well, if the business you're working with has Zendesk, then that means they're at a point of growth where they need Zendesk. So they also need automation at that point as well. So the services, the average deal size that we get is $3,500. And the way that these deals work is sometimes a company comes to us, they post a job in the marketplace, and what we can see with our analytics is that the job post initially is for, let's say, $500, and just a few hours of work. Well, the project scope typically grows because what we realize, automation begets more automation. So the business owner or the team that the expert is working with, they kind of become addicted a little bit to the idea of automating something. And once you give them that feeling of, oh my gosh, I don't have to do this anymore, they come back to you with more ideas, and they want to expand the scope of the initial project. So what we see oftentimes is a project starts out small and grows into a larger project. And we've had companies that have grown, multiple times over their original budget size, and gets into the 5-figure range pretty easily. Turnaround time for most of these deals is less than 10 business days. That goes from kind of the first meeting all the way to kind of scoping out the project, creating a diagram. So a lot of our experts like to create a flow chart using a tool like Miro or Lucid Charts to kind of show the client, here's what we're going to do. Here's your current system that you're doing the manual way, and here's how we're going to automate it. Business owners and key stakeholders like to see this kind of stuff. They like to see that you know what you're doing and that they can visualize the future. The margin on these deals can be as high as 60%. If you're automating the work yourself, that's 100% margin, but you're putting in your time. And so as a trade-off, if you're a busy agency or you only specialize in marketing automation or Airtable automation, you can always find an expert on the Workload marketplace and kind of outsource the work to them or subcontract the work. So this is the team. There's me, Brian. I'm the co-founder. My email, contact information, and for sales, we have Gus. If you're a customer and you feel like you don't really want to post the job into our marketplace, you can just email Gus or find him on LinkedIn. He's very active on there, and you can just talk to him directly, and he can get you set up with a contract. And then we have Monica, who's our head of supply, and she's in charge of kind of the quality, making sure that the matching is happening. So we want to match up the project to the appropriate expert who has the right skills to succeed at your project. And we have kind of a matching algorithm that does that, but sometimes she kind of has to manually do it. And so here's our information. We're based in Oakland. We have this toll-free number, and if you call that number, it's actually automated. So it'll take your voicemail and it will send us a notification, and it will create a task in our system of whatever your voice said. It uses some Google API, NLP system to deduce it. And then it'll text you back and ask you for your email address. So here's our marketplace. Let me drag this down into view. So it's a very simple form online. You just fill out, it's kind of like Reddit. You just fill out a title and your problem. You can upload any imagery or screenshot, and when you click create a task, it takes you straight into the matching system, where either you get matched directly with an expert based on the skills that we've extracted from your text, and then it works similar to Upwork from there. You just chat with an expert and take it from there. You can pay through the platform. The expert gets paid through the platform, and all the hours in the project are tracked within the marketplace. So it's pretty straightforward if you've ever used Upwork. And here we are in the Zapier experts directory. So we're here. We're fairly new, so we only have 8 reviews. We have more in the pipeline. They just need to get approved. So joining the experts directory. So if you're an agency and you're interested in expanding your services, I highly recommend getting listed on the Zapier Experts Directory, as well as the Integramat Partner Program Directory. To be on the Experts Directory in Zapier, you have to reach out to Greg right here. You just hit connect me and it'll contact Greg for you and let him know that you want to be involved in the expert program. There's a few hoops you have to jump through. You have to take kind of a case study, and you have to execute a Zapier plan for a fictitious client. Um, and you have to have a pro level Zapier account in order to achieve that. Then they review your plan, and then they start to give you, then they list you on here. You'll be on the back of the page, and you have to get clients and start getting reviews to come up, rank higher on their directory. The partner program for Integramat is a little more hands-off. And here we are there. Really, you just have to have an Integramat account, and then you apply to the program. They accept you, and they start giving you leads. And it's more hands-off, but there's hundreds of Integramat partners, so you're kind of in charge of promoting it yourself, whereas Zapier will promote for you. So that's really kind of the whole spiel on offering marketing services, automation services to your marketing clients. I'll stop sharing now. And also I'll share this presentation with Alex whenever he shares so that people can have it.
I love it, man. That was really good. Do you use Fireflies.ai by chance for that voice automation? What's the voice automation?
Oh, we used Twilio programmable voice.
How was that set up? Was it pretty easy?
It was very easy. Yeah. Surprisingly, I was a little intimidated with Twilio because it's mostly enterprise solutions, but their API is actually very simple to use.
I love it. Can you walk through that real quick? I'm genuinely curious on how that's set up. Just the quick, what triggers what and what tools are used.
Yeah. So when you call our 1-800 number, a voice comes on, and I try to use the most friendly robot voice that they had. I think his name is Matthew. So we have Matthew, and when you call, you'll hear Matthew, and he'll ask you a question. The question is, basically, states why you're here. Okay, thanks for calling Workload. We're happy to, automate your process for you. Is in much detail as you can describe the process you want automated, and then it just, leaves blank airspace for the person to just talk in a free form setting. So then what happens? It records that person's voicemail, more or less, transcribes the voicemail to text, and then we shoot that text to the Google Natural Language Understanding module, and Google will then extract any specific software terms that the person left in their voicemail from the transcription. We use that to then create a list of skills needed to match an expert up. And then simultaneously, the Twilio system will reach back out to the number that called, and they say, the text says, hey, we have your project. It's almost ready to go. Can you share your email address so we can give you the details? So then they text back the email address, and then now we have all the information we need to start their project. So we give the email address, the skills needed, and the job description that they left in the voicemail, and we run that through our marketplace as if someone just posted the job. And then they'll start receiving emails that, Core is sending you a proposal. Click here to review it. And they get notified that someone has sent a proposal, and then they can, reach out to the expert and negotiate their terms and start the project.
Love that, man. That's pretty nifty. Yeah, I think there's definitely a time and a place to automate for you and your clients. Some of them are obviously not. I don't like using chatbots, for example. It's just what I think. Yeah. Not a great thing to do, but
you don't use chatbots either.
I like that a lot. I like that voice, and you kind of hear something, and then it gets you in the mode of like, oh, this company's really all about automation. So definitely going to recommend that to our to our friends out there.
Yeah, you have to eat your own dog food. So we're an automation company, and it'd be embarrassing if we were doing things manually over here. So
Yeah, and you set up the number with Twilio, so you can also do a text automation with
mhm.
that same number, right? So I can send that 800 number a text message, and you can share your thing,
It'll
right?
respond exactly the same way. Yeah, it'll ask you what you want done, what your problem is. Basically, it'll entice you to text back what your project is that you want automated, and then it'll ask you for your email address and kick off the same workflow.
And that form, when you do the voice form, you
Mhm.
actually have to read off. Like if I said my name's Alex and my email's this, does it have me actually read off the email, or how does that work with email?
No, so it'll kick off the process to text you back
Oh,
later
that's
to ask you for your email. Yeah.
oh man, this is
You
cool.
can even do with Twilio, sorry, this is core. With Twilio, when they dial in, it is number recognition. So if you have a CRM system, you can connect that and it'll direct it on a different workflow depending on whether it's an existing customer or a new customer. So you can actually have Matthew say, "Hey, Brian, welcome back. What can we do for you today?" Based on the number that they're dialing from.
Brilliant. Yeah. Yeah. That we're going to expand on it. We have some analytic metrics around it so we can track the usage. So if we realize that people are using this voice service a lot, then we're going to expand. But yeah, that's something that I was nervous about setting it up. Is like, what if my own customer already like called me, or what if someone was calling and they didn't want something automated? They had a problem that they needed to
You can
solve.
fire a transfer to yourself, right? So if it is like say yeah, say yes if I'm a customer, whatever it is, then you can instruct it to connect to your cell phone, or
Yeah,
what do you do?
it's so flexible. They have their own like workflow development tool called Studio, and you can build out all these modules. And
How much
um,
is it for that level of
that's
access?
the beauty of Twilio and why I love it so much, why I'm suddenly a huge fan. I didn't really understand it until I started really using it. It's pay per usage. So it's not like a monthly SaaS fee. So they charge me 0.0001 cent per voicemail minute. Um, we use them for our video chat service as well within our marketplace. So when experts and clients meet, they can do a quick video conference to talk about the project. And we use Twilio's programmable video for our video conference service. And same deal, it's like 0.0004 cents. So it's a half a penny per minute.
And
So
then,
it's
I
great.
mean, that's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
Kat, that's definitely going to be a project for us in the near term. I think we set up that voicemail tree system for our SaaS partners that want to work with us. We can funnel them in different directions. So yeah,
Yeah, I'm taking notes.
that's awesome. And then I do want to dovetail that into like 5 minutes or whatever we have to say about Airtable, because selfishly, we want to know what's going on in Airtable, and we don't have a lot of that information that you have, and even Core you have too. But what is going on with Airtable? The services that are ordered off Airtable specifically, what are some that you see quite often? What is the potential? I mean, what are some of the numbers that you see flying around with Airtable builds? And then if you know anything at all about whether or not they're going to start going down the Zapier Experts partner program route more, than they are now, anything on that, would love to hear it. So
I don't have any information on if they're going to go down the Zapier expert program kind of route of having their own partnerships that way. I would assume they will. I think a lot of SaaS companies are going that route because it just enhances the customer experience overall. And that's kind of how Workload is positioned to kind of become this expert marketplace for various SaaS tools. And we're starting with automation tools because I think that's the most interesting field. Um, as far as Airtable builds go, the most common use case is that a company is using Google Sheets and they've sort of reached the limitations of what Google Sheets is capable of, and they need to get off of that. And so a lot of the work that we do in Airtable is replicating a similar like database of the company's existing flat file in Google Sheets. So with Airtable, you can link resources, which makes it like a relational database, which means you can index things much faster. You can do custom formulas on the fly. And, the pricing for those, it varies. It's really based on how much data you need to import, how many scripts you have to kind of run to make sure the import data from spreadsheet goes to Airtable correctly. The cool thing about Airtable is they have those elements, those little modules off to the right-hand side where you can quickly just kind of scroll through a bunch of records and then have a module of like, okay, let's say it's a bunch of records of invoices, and then you can just print off these invoices right from the right-hand side in the right format that you need.
Oh, for reporting, I mean, it's gold, those new modules. You can create a page in whatever format you want, put the image up here, title over there, drag that record over here, and create a really good looking custom invoice or profile for whatever.
Profile, customer. So you can make a CRM, a really customized CRM out of it, which that's one use case that we had was this real estate developer needed a customized solution for his business, where he had one base was all of his materials that he used for a project. Another base was the financial records of a project, like a house development, like a flip, right? So it was all of his financial cash flow statements. And then the other one, the third base was like his like agent contacts that he could promote this property to. And so he had this kind of linked them all together into the CRM system, where when you highlight a property on the right-hand side, it shows you, here's all the materials that we had in it, here's how much. So now he has his costs. He's like, here's my cash flow, here's when the bills are going to come due, so you can calculate his carry. And then here's the agents that I'm going to broadcast this to. Work for him.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that was like
Brian,
$5,000 for that one.
Core?
Yeah, Core.
Brian, have you heard of AirPower? So you were saying a lot of Shopify requests and Airtable. Have you worked with AirPower?
No, I haven't worked with AirPower. Can you key me in on that?
So AirPower, basically, they've duplicated I've just posted the link. They've duplicated the data structure for the key tables in Shopify in Airtable. So you can actually manage your entire Shopify store from Airtable, which is awesome. It's just how you push the products and the images and the stuff. It's just incredible. Wow. And using that as the base of many automations is just managing production, managing shipping, and all of that stuff in a visible way at bulk is just amazing.
Where was this tool like 4 months ago? I was knee deep in a Shopify project. This was kind of before we really had the marketplace up and running and ramped up, loaded with experts. My co-founder and I were doing all the automations ourselves. And so we were really drowning in work. And we were doing two large Shopify projects. One was a migration from one store format to another. So this guy he was on like Web 1.0. He was on a Yahoo small business store, if you're familiar with those. Yeah. And he was just selling herbal supplements. And, his store was terrible, and he wanted to move into Shopify finally, 20 years later. So we just were manipulating Google Sheets left and right and importing them into the CSV uploader in Shopify one at a time. And just, something it takes, he had like 20,000 products. So it took a few hours for one of these sheets to be ingested. I could have used this tool to sync the records.
So what's cool is he has a standard, so it's a stat of the key tables in Shopify that's already set up. So replicating your entire Shopify store or the basic store onto Airtable literally takes half an hour. And then I think they charge like $40 a month. They do the synchronization from Shopify to Airtable. every 15 minutes. So like just setting up that initial sync will cost you at least 3 or 4 days of my time. And so paying the $40 a month just to get that done and get us going, and we can start with interesting, and that it's mind-numbingly painful to do that initial setup. So I often just tell the guys, just get that up so we can do the interesting stuff. Then we can do cool automations after that.
That's brilliant. I love that. It's a great process.
Are you doing a lot of e-commerce stuff, Core?
Yeah, I'm actually, that's the key. I think it's might be a COVID related thing, but that's definitely spiked. WooCommerce, Shopify, Amazon, all of those, there's a lot of demand. And there's a lot of, I don't know if it's lagging, but there's so many opportunities. I guess the nature of e-commerce is all of it's cloud-based. Most of the platforms are API enabled. Not many of them are natively supported by any of the iPaaS platforms. So you do ultimately need a bit of an expert to get into those APIs and understand the flow and the structure a little bit. So it's perfect for us to position us in that e-commerce space. And it's tremendously scalable. I mean, what Brian was saying earlier, one of the key advantages of automation is the scalability, and e-commerce you can basically scale it as there's no brick and mortar that's stopping the scaling or even people. So automation brings a lot of value to that kind of setup.
This is huge. So where my head goes is, say you're not in e-commerce as a space, you're dealing mainly with B2B SaaS services. And I've got stuff on Workload. I've got my profile up there, and maybe I tagged myself as a B2B automation expert. But with this new tool and with Airtable, if you know Airtable, you've got this new tool, you can start selling services to Shopify stores. And that can take your average ticket value, your average service value way.
That's easily a $100,000 business line opportunity just in and of itself right there.
Well, that is gold. Core, thank you so much for that. That's huge. So
Core, that is huge. I'm keeping this in my back pocket. So you need to stop
Alex,
telling people about this.
Yeah, I was going to say, Alex, you need to speak to a Canadian, a guy running it out of Canada, and he doesn't have a partner program yet. So you need to reach out to him to get him signed up and get an affiliate, the referral or something up and running. I retire just of the affiliates to his platform.
Seriously. Yeah. I mean, if you know him, definitely bring him in and we'll make the connection. But let's do this. I mean, I think what we can do for the community going forward is do every 2 months, bring what is new with automations to the table. What are new automation services that you can start offering your clients? And then Core, if we're still chatting, you like the community, this is definitely an opportunity for you to say, I'll white label, you got Shopify stores. I know the automations. Let's work together and let's do some big builds together. Right. I think that could be cool. So I'd love to do something like that. But Brian, great presentation, man. Great data. You're going to have more of it next quarter, more the quarter after that, and you're going to keep growing. So
yeah, we track a lot of metrics in our marketplace. So, I can keep coming back with more information as it develops.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. We can have a roundtable where it's what is new with new services being ordered, right? And then let's talk about a couple of those core services and actually how would you go about setting them up and who would you sell them to, and have the white label agency expert like Core to talk about how he would help to facilitate the implementation and the build. That could be really good. So yeah, I'll do that. Let's go ahead and break this session. I'll go ahead and put the recording in the community and drip it out to the newsletter. And we'll have a little bit of an article on the blog, but this will tease what is the track. The track is I want to start selling automation services. I want to sell more of them, better of them. How do I do it? What do I do? And workload.co is the resource to get those out into the wild, right? To get those marketed. All right.
Great.
Thank you so much, Brian. Thank you, Core, for jumping in.
Brian.
Yeah,
awesome.
thanks, Alice.
Thanks so much, guys. Good to meet you.